What's good? It's Russell King here. Today, I'm going to discuss in the recent episode of Monday Night Raw. I'm going to jump straight into it. Starts off with Sami Zayn, cuts a promo, mentioning his, upcoming match at the King and Queen of the Ring pay-per-view, mentions the triple threat. Then he starts talking about how he can lose his title without getting pinned, and he's talking about why he wanted it to be a triple threat, and basically he ends up saying that he wants to deal with both men at the same time. He wants to kill two birds with one stone. Then he starts talking about Chad Gable, starts mentioning his recent heel turn, mentions how, he attacked him in front of his wife, after the match they had, mentioned how he put him in an ankle lock. He called Chad Gable a manipulator. Chad Gable comes out, ends up saying that there's no way he's a manipulator, and then he ends up saying that, did I manipulate you into beating Gunther at WrestleMania? And then he ends up saying that he was so selfish to train Sami Zayn. He ends up saying that he's been too nice. He's been too nice to Sami Zayn, and he's been too nice to the Alpha Academy. Then he basically starts talking trash to the Alpha Academy, turns to Maxine, calls her a failure for, losing her match against Shayna Baszler, for not being in the Queen in the Ring tournament no more. Mentions Akira Tozawa, how he lost to Bronson Reed. Then he ends up saying Otis proved once again why he is the biggest disappointment to losing to Sami Zayn. Then Sami Zayn interrupts, ends up asking the Alpha Academy how much longer are they going to put up with Chad Gable, keep on, mistreating them. Gable ends up stopping him from continuing to talk, ends up saying that he knows what he's trying to do, trying to turn Alpha Academy against him. Chad Gable was about to say something, but he ended up getting "you suck" chance. Then Chad Gable basically ends up saying that he's going to take that Intercontinental title off of Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn basically, starts cutting a deep, passionate promo. Then he ends up talking about basically he wants to fight. Sami basically ends up saying that you're here, I'm here right now, and let's end up fighting. So, and immediately cuts to Sami Zayn and Gable. The Chad Gable, Sami Zayn end up having a match. Now, it starts off with Sami Zayn getting the early advantage. He was dominating for the early part of, I would say, the first minute or two of this match. Then it cut to commercial. Then it popped back up. It showed Chad Gable end up dominating the match. Then we get a moment where Chad Gable ends up having Sami Zayn leaning on the ropes. Has him leaning on the ropes. And then he distracts the ref on purpose. And he's telling Maxine, to attack him. Maxine looks like she's about to attack Sami Zayn, but she can't. She can't bring herself to attack Sami. She just can't. Chad Gable gets out, starts yelling at her. Sami Zayn gets out in the ring, tries to chase Chad Gable, but Chad Gable ends up hiding behind Maxine, uses Maxine as a shield. They both get in the ring. Chad Gable starts stomping Sami Zayn out because he got in the ring first. Then he does it again. He ends up leading him against the ropes again. Now he wants Akira Tozawa to hit Sami Zayn. He distracts the ref again, but Tozawa cannot hit Sami Zayn. Then Chad Gable had enough. He gets frustrated, ends up calling Maxine and Akira Tozawa failures, and kicks them out. He kicked them out like the ref does when he catches the heels cheating. He ends up kicking them out because he's like, you guys are useless. You guys are not listening to me. Why are you out here? Kicks them out and send them backstage. Then, but he was distracted while he was kicking them out. He was distracted. Sami Zayn ends up taking advantage and ends up hitting a blue thunder bomb. Goes for the pin. Chad Gable kicks out. Cuts to commercial break. Then comes back. They have a good back and forth, but Sami gets the upper hand. Sami ends up going for a haluva kick. Chad Gable ends up reversing it into an ankle lock. Sami Zayn is fighting through it, but he ends up getting the ropes. Then Chad Gable throws Sami Zayn outside. Now it's again doing the same thing again. He distracts the ref, and Otis has a chance to hit Sami Zayn, but he doesn't. He can't bring himself to hit him. So Chad Gable ends up going outside. He does the same thing, starts yelling, belittling Otis, and then he slaps him. He slaps Otis, and Otis, like he did last time, Otis didn't do anything about it. Then gets back in the ring, catches Gable off guard, he ends up suplexing him towards the turnbuckle, setting up for the haluva kick. As he's setting up for the haluva kick, Otis decided to help Chad Gable out, hits him with a clothesline towards the turnbuckle where the ref wasn't looking. Chad Gable takes advantage of that, ends up doing his finishing move, picks up the victory here. This was really good. I really love what they did here. Love the story that they told here with the Alpha Academy. I was very shocked that Otis did this. I was very shocked when they had Otis actually, help Chad Gable out. But I liked it. It progressed the story. It progressed, Otis, his feelings and how he feels about, cheating or not. I really love what they did. I love the story that they told here because I was very interested to see what they're going to give Chad Gable the victory here. Because me personally, I don't think he's winning at the pay-per-view, but it's nice to see Chad Gable pick up the victory. I love what they did here though. Now next we get a segment with, well, it was supposed to be an Alpha Academy segment, but end up getting cut because they end up hearing some noise backstage. And you see Cruz Del Toro from the LWO is attacked. He basically ends up saying Carlito was the one that attacked him. And so basically, this is basically continuing the story of LWO and Carlito. We'll see how this goes, but Carlito ends up attacking Cruz Del Toro, and we'll see what happens next week on Raw. We'll see with the LWO how they would respond. Now we get Bron Breakker. Bron Breakker, this right here was perfect. He's facing a jobber, but instead of doing the typical, he just spears him and wins. No, the match starts, right? And Bron Breakker is very frustrated. And I love what they did here because they basically played up the story of Bron Breakker facing jobbers because everyone's on the internet constantly saying that he should face real competition. Why is he facing jobbers? They basically made this into a storyline, which I love. Bron Breakker basically was very frustrated because he was because in the ring, you could kind of hear him, He ends up saying that first I'm not in the king of the ring and now this, basically saying that I'm facing a nobody. I'm not facing no real comp. He starts getting real angry. He starts shaking his head, hit his head on the turnbuckle, turns around and immediately spears the jobber. I'm thinking that's it. Nope. He ends up picking him up, throws him out the ring. The jobber is walking around the ring. Bron Breakker ends up charging another spear, runs around the ring and spears him again. Tosses him back in the ring, about to inflict more pain to him, but the referee ends up stopping him, ends up telling him the match is over. So the match is over, but Bron Breakker is not satisfied. He's not satisfied. So he ends up taking the jobber outside. He ends up tossing the jobber back outside. Ends up constantly attacking. Picks up the steel steps. About to hit him with it, but security ends up coming out. Security comes out, tries to stop him. So he ends up putting the thing down. Puts the steel steps down. Looks like he's about to walk away, but he walks away to grab a steel chair. Grabs a steel chair, walks towards the jobber. The jobber's head is like on the steel steps. Like his head is like leaning on the steel steps. Goes towards him and smashes his head with the chair into the steel steps. This was perfect. This is what we needed from Bron Breakker. We needed Bron Breakker to be this ferocious, intimidating force. We needed this because I understand what they was doing with the squash matches, but we needed something different, and I love what they did. This was giving me flashbacks of Von Wagner. If you guys don't watch NXT, basically, Bron Breakker did the same thing with to a guy named Von Wagner, but instead of using a steel chair, he ended up smashing his head on steel steps. He ends up using steel steps to smash his head on steel steps. This was great. This was amazing. But then after this, after they put the guy in the ambulance and all that, Adam Pearce walks up to Bron Breakker and was like, "What are you doing? What is wrong with you?" Bron Breakker ends up telling Adam Pearce that you can't control me. You didn't put me in the King of the Ring tournament, and that's your fault. He is basically, this is your fault. It's your fault that I forgot guy's name, but that jobber is in the hospital now. This is all on you. I love what they're doing, Bron Breakker. I can't wait to see what they do with him next. Now we get a quick segment. Becky Lynch, Lyra Valkyria, two women, just support. Becky Lynch is showing her love and support to Lyra for her quarterfinal match against Io Sky, giving her love and support to hope that she advances to the finals. Nothing more to it, but, giving her the words of encouragement before a match. Now we get Lyra Valkyria versus Io Sky, the last match of the Queen of the Ring tournament. Starts off with Lyra Valkyria getting the early upper hand, the early advantage, dominating, but it goes to commercial break. Then it shows Io Sky starts dominating the match. Then Io Sky starts trolling and playing around with Lyra Valkyria, starts kicking her in the face. Lyra ends up catching one of her kicks and ends up turning that into a suplex. Then there was a sequence where Io ended up getting the advantage again, starts dominating, but Lyra ends up was able to, I forgot what counter she did. She ended up reversing one of her counters. And then she did this weird submission, like where she had her in a Boston Crab, but instead of her body being faced towards her back, she had her her front of her body facing towards Io Sky's back and had her legs hooked and then pulled her forward, kind of similar to what Daniel Bryan does. I forgot what the move is, but it's kind of similar to what Daniel Bryan does. And then she just starts swinging her around. It was a very crazy sequence, but I love what Lyra ends up doing with it. That was very sick. I hope she pulls that out more because that was a very sick move. Then Lyra tries to go for a bridge pin, but ends up getting reversed into a crossface by Io Sky. Then Io Sky ends up doing a springboard drop kick. Then she goes for her knees to the back. Then Io Sky rolls out of the ring. Io Sky goes for her moonsault outside the ring. And then I think it goes to commercial break, if I'm not mistaken. Then Io Sky again goes for her running knees, but Lyra ends up reversing it into a tornado DDT. Then she ends up doing a suplex, tries to pin Io Sky, but Io Sky kicks out. Then Io goes for a suplex on Lyra. Then she ends up going for her signature moonsault, but Lyra was able to stop it. Ends up going to the top rope. Tries to put, she had Io Sky on her back, but Io Sky ends up falling. Ends up falling to the ground, grabbing Lyra Valkyria into a powerbomb. Then Io Sky tries to go for another moonsault, but Lyra ends up moving out the way this time. Then, yeah, she moves out the way. Lyra was like on top of Io Sky. Like she was standing up on top of Io Sky. Io Sky was laying on the ground. Io basically had her arm wrapped around Lyra's leg, try to pull her down. Lyra wasn't going down, so Lyra decided to sit on Io and pin her, and she picks up the victory. I thought Io Sky was going to kick out, because typically when wrestlers do that, when they're like standing on top and then just sit and pin on them, they typically kick out of that. So I was very shocked when she won, but Lyra won. And it was crazy because someone in my comments told me that don't be shocked if Lyra wins, and he was right. I thought Io was going to go all the way. I didn't think they was going to have an NXT call-up go all the way to the finals. But I was wrong. I thought if they were going to have an NXT call-up go to the finals, it would have been someone like Bron Breakker or a Dragunov, because I felt like they had more stock into those guys. But clearly I was wrong. But I did have her going this far, so I knew she would make it far. But I'm very shocked that she ends up going to the finals, and very interested to see who she faced, because I had Bianca going all the way, but now I think Nia Jax may go all the way, because I don't know if if she ends up beating Bianca Belair, that would be wild. But I'm very interested to see who she faced at the King and Queen of the Ring pay-per-view, though. I love that Lyra Valkyria won, because me personally, I don't think Io Sky really needs the victory, to be honest, because she's already an established star. Like, I understand she's still a young, upcoming star, but I feel like you should have I feel like Lyra was the right choice here, in my opinion. Io Sky is already an established star. I don't really think she needs it. So I love that they gave it to Lyra Valkyria. Very surprised victory here. Now, after the win, though, we get a backstage segment. Dragunov is getting interviewed. Got interviewed. I forgot who was interviewing him, but the lady ends up asking about Jey Uso. Dragunov ends up saying that there's no shame in losing to Jey Uso. Then Ricochet ends up approaching him. He basically wants another match. He wants to fight Dragunov again. Before Dragunov can respond, Bron Breakker comes out of nowhere and spears Ricochet through the equipment cases, bro. Bro, what they're doing with Bron Breakker is great. Showing him being this ruthless, dominant force. I love what they're doing here. I love that they made the storyline of him wanting competition, of him constantly being sidelined. I love what they're doing here. This is great. Now, I'm curious what they're going to do with Ricochet, because if Ricochet want to fight Dragunov, I'm assuming he's going to hold that off to fight Bron Breakker, which I'm okay with, and we know Bron Breakker is going to destroy Ricochet. But this is great. I love what they're doing here. Now we get a quick segment with the Judgment Day. Damien's talking to Finn Balor and JD about the tag titles, because they have a match with Awesome Truth. Talk about, them bringing the tag titles back to Judgment Day. Then it's Carlito, Dominic, and Priest. Priest mentions how Carlito, attacked Cruz del Toro. Talked about, how LWO will probably want to come after him. Carlito ends up saying that he ended up attacking first before they attacked him. So now he's just waiting for the heat to blow her and lay low. Damien, still not, respecting Carlito, still doesn't see Carlito as a member. He ends up saying that this isn't your personal protection agency. I don't know. And Damien ends up saying that you basically gotta continue to earn our respect. You gotta earn my respect if you want to stay here and you want to stay in the clubhouse, if you want our help, basically. And that's the end of the segment there. Now we get a return. Sonia Deville returns, and she's talking to Zoe Starks and Shayna Baszler, and she wanted to ask them a question, but Shayna Baszler ends up declining, not giving her a chance to speak. I'm curious to see what Sonya Deville does. Me personally, I am a huge Sonya Deville fan. I think she is the most underrated wrestler on that roster. I think she can make an amazing heel champion. I think she's very underrated. I think she's underrated in every aspect. Underrated mic worker, underrated character, slightly underrated in the ring. Not saying she's amazing, but she's not bad at all. Really love Sonya Deville. I can't wait till she's back in the ring. I can't wait till she's back cutting promos. I love Sonya Deville. I think she's very underrated. I can't wait to see what she does. Now we get a Awesome Truth versus Judgment Day. This was a very solid match. Starts off with Awesome Truth getting the early advantage. They start dominating the match, but then Dominic Mysterio ends up interfering, distracting the referee, and then Finn Balor takes advantage of that. Ends up and then Judgment Day starts dominating. Then goes to commercial break. Then Miz ends up getting a hot tag to R-Truth. R-Truth tries to do the 5 moves of doom, showing respect to his childhood hero John Cena. But then Finn Balor was able to stop it. But then then the Miz ends up coming in because I think Finn Balor went for a pin, and then JD got in the ring, starts attacking Truth. Then the Miz comes in. Then they start, both going back and forth. Awesome Truth get the upper hand, and then Miz and Truth was able to finish the 5 moves of doom with the last body slam. Then they both ends up doing John Cena's signature, the 5 knuckle shuffle. They both hit it. Then Carlito tries to interfere, but the Miz ends up knocking him down off the ring apron. Then R-Truth ends up doing a face first body slam to JD, goes for the pin, but Carlito ends up putting JD's foot on the ropes. Then Braun Breaker comes out immediately. JD ends up telling Carlito to attack Braun Breaker. Braun Strowman ends up taking out Carlito with ease. JD starts running away from Braun Breaker. Not Braun Breaker. Did I say Braun Breaker? I meant to say Braun Strowman. My fault. Braun Strowman is chasing after JD. JD is running. JD is running away from Braun Strowman. Gets in the ring, but he gets in the ring and immediately is caught by Attitude Adjustment. Awesome Truth picks up the victory here by the help of Braun Strowman. This was great because also there was a segment before the match where R-Truth was basically ends up saying that the Miz was concerned about Judgment Day having a numbers game, and then R-Truth ends up saying that he shouldn't worry about that because he has some backup. He ends up saying that Andre the Giant was going to help them in this match. Miz, of course, was confused because Andre the Giant is not alive. He ends up saying that Andre the Giant passed away. R-Truth was confused, and then the Miz and R-Truth just basically had confusion. So it made sense now who Andre the Giant was, which was Braun Strowman. So it all came full circle. Now, we'll get a quick segment with Lyra Valkyria and Liv Morgan. Lyra was walking down some type of tunnel or some type of walkway backstage. Then Liv Morgan ends up approaching her. Liv Morgan basically starts mentioning what happened last week with Lyra, with Becky Lynch punching her backstage. Then Liv Morgan ends up getting a sneak attack. I forgot what she did. I think she ended up pointing at something where Lyra looked away. Then she ends up punching Lyra in the face, then walks off. So they're still playing up Liv Morgan's heel character. Nothing much here, but they're still playing up her heel character. It looks like Lyra is still going to have some issues with Liv Morgan, so they may inject her into the Becky Lynch and Liv Morgan feud that they have going on. Now we get a segment with Otis and Sami Zayn. It started off with Bronson Reed, but Bronson Reed didn't really say anything that important. He just basically said that he's coming for the Intercontinental title and he's going to win it, basically. Otis ends up approaching Sami, ends up saying that he ends up tapping Otis on Sami on the shoulder, if I'm not mistaken. Sami ends up saying that I expected better out of you, and he basically ends up kind of making Otis feel bad. He ends up saying that that's not the type of person you are. I expect you to do better, but clearly I was wrong. Otis ends up saying that he was sorry. Sami ends up kind of forgiving him, and he basically convinces Otis. He's trying to convince Otis. He's saying that you should stop what you're doing. This is not you. You're a good guy. The sooner you get away from Gable, the sooner that you'll feel better about yourself. He ends up mentioning how he can relate, which is true. Sami Zayn can relate because he was in a similar situation with Roman Reigns. And he said that the sooner you get away from Chad Gable, the sooner you'll feel better. So they're still teasing the Otis, turn on Chad Gable, which will eventually happen. Now we get a Becky Lynch promo. Not going to really talk too much about this because this segment really I didn't like. She was talking in the ring, but gets interrupted by Liv Morgan. Um, Becky, I forgot exactly what Liv Morgan was saying, but then Becky Lynch ends up talking about purpose. Yeah, it was something about purpose because Liv Morgan was talking about how she finally found her purpose in life, which is her revenge tour, basically. Becky Lynch talked about her purpose, talked about, her purpose of, breaking barriers, reaching the next limit, talked about, basically the women's revolution, main eventing WrestleMania. Then Liv Morgan responded, ends up saying that no, before Liv Morgan responded, Becky Lynch ends up asking her if your purpose is to get revenge. What is the end goal? What happens after you get your revenge? Liv Morgan ends up saying that the end goal is basically to become world champion, and then Becky starts basically wants a fight. I'm not going to talk too much about this segment because me personally, this segment was bad. It was bad on both sides. Now, Becky Lynch was great for the first part, but towards the end, where she kept on like repeating the same thing over and over, she kept on saying here and here and here for whatever reason. That's where I got bad. Liv Morgan in general was just bad in this segment, in my opinion. Some of the way she was saying her words was so confusing. It was like it was weird. Some of the way she was talking, it was just kind of throwing me off. But yeah, I'm not really excited for this match. I really don't care. I don't care about this feud. I only care about it because it's Becky Lynch. But yeah, I don't see what you guys see in Liv Morgan. I really don't. I don't think she's bad. I don't think she's good. I just think she's mid. Now, she has potential. I will say that because I will say this. To be honest, because I was going to say I kind of like her heel character more, but if I'm being honest, I don't even know if I like her more as a heel. I kind of like her more as a babyface, if I'm being honest, because I don't know what it is. This heel Liv Morgan is just not working for me. I just don't see what you guys see. I really don't. I really don't see what you guys hype her up so much. But maybe I'm just missing something. But like I said, I just don't see it with Liv Morgan. I really don't. But she's going to be a champion eventually, so I'm not mad at it. But I just don't see what you guys see. I'm not going to go over the segment too much because, like I said, the segment was not that good. Don't really care about this feud. I just care about Becky Lynch. And I pray that Becky Lynch wins at the King and Queen of the Ring pay-per-view. Now we get a quick segment. Xavier Woods is now clear to perform. Kofi Kingston ends up leaving the ring, ends up wanting to talk to Adam Pearce about, some matches they could have at the tag team titles. Then Karrion Kross comes out of nowhere. He does the same thing he did to Kobe last week. Ends up saying that there's always time to turn things around. And then walks away. Like I said, I'm very interested to see what they do with Karrion Kross in a New Day. It could be very interesting. It could really help Karrion Kross, but they have to do it right. They need to do it right. Because I like Karrion Kross. I think Karrion Kross is a great worker. I like his character. His matches need to be a lot better because the matches are trash. But as a character, he has it. He just needs to actually win matches and put on good matches. That is the problem. A lot of people think it's his character. No. The problem with Karrion Kross is, one, his matches are not memorable. And two, he's not winning. When you have bad matches and you're not winning, yeah, it's hard to get over. But I'm very interested to see what they do with Karrion Kross. Now, we get a fatal four-way tag team match between Damage Control with Dakota Kai and Kairi Sane, Zoe Stark, Shayna Baszler, Maxine Dupree, Ivy Nile, and Katana Chance and Kenny Carter. Not going to speak too much on this match because this match was okay at best. Nothing too major here. I hate this match type too because this match type is so stupid. I hate these matches because, to me personally, if you're doing a fatal four-way tag team, each members of the tag team should be in the ring. I hate the idea that the other team can tag in someone that's not their partner. It is the dumbest thing ever. Then you have moments, not in this match particularly, but there are moments in these type of matches where they would tag someone in on purpose that is not their teammate. I don't understand. Not their tag partner. It doesn't make sense. Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark ends up picking up the victory here. I kind of didn't wish they didn't win here. I like Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. I love them. I think they're a great tag team, but I kind of wish they didn't win because most likely they're going to eventually face, I don't know if they're going to face them at the pay-per-view. I don't think so. I hope not, because if they're not facing them at the pay-per-view, I don't mind. But if they are facing them at the pay-per-view, I don't want them, because in terms of tag teams, they are the only tag team that can possibly win against Bianca and Jade. And even then, they're not winning against Bianca and Jade. So if you're going to face them at a pay-per-view, at least save that. Make them face the other tag teams first and then, face Shayna and Zoe. But this was a good victory here. Nothing too major. Next, we get an interview segment with Ludwig Kaiser. The lady mentions Jey Uso. Ludwig Kaiser basically talks about how Gunther is going to put Jey Uso in his place. Then Ludwig Kaiser does what he does last week and starts going in on Sheamus. Now, the thing is, the lady didn't mention any. I don't know what it is with Ludwig and Sheamus, but they're clearly playing a story up with Ludwig and Sheamus. I don't know what that story is going to be because it was very strange because, mind you, he was talking about Jey Uso and then he did this weird transition where he starts talking about Sheamus out of nowhere and constantly goes on another rant about Sheamus, constantly saying that Sheamus doesn't belong here. He's not on Gunther's level. How if Sheamus was to return, he's going to put him in his place. He's just going on a huge rant about Sheamus. I don't know what his issue is with Sheamus, but I'm excited to see how that plays out and what that feud ends up being. Now, we get a segment with Chad Gable and the Creed brothers. Chad Gable and the Creed brothers are joking around laughing, and then Otis ends up coming up to him, needing to talk. Then Chad Gable ends up telling him that don't remember what my offer was. So there looks like they're teasing potential Chad Gable and the Creed brothers forming a faction. Now, I heard rumors about this, but I didn't know how true they were, so I didn't really buy too much stock into it. But it looks like we may be getting Chad Gable and the Creed brothers as a heel faction, and I think that would be a great faction if executed right. Chad Otis ends up telling Chad Gable that he ends up apologizing to Sami Zayn. Chad Gable was confused, but then he ends up saying that it was a good idea because he thought Otis said ends up apologizing to Sami to get into his head to soften him up for the King and the Wing pay-per-view. Then Chad Gable ends up telling him that you're gonna make sure you're gonna help me win by any means necessary, and you're gonna do whatever it takes. He wants Otis to say whatever it takes. Otis ends up saying whatever it takes, but ends up panning Otis like face all the way to the camera with like a very sad look. They're clearly setting up Otis is definitely gonna turn on Chad Gable at the pay-per-view. At the King and the Queen of the Ring pay-per-view, he's going to turn on Chad Gable. Simple as that. It's a way for him to lose, but it's a way to protect Chad Gable. Simple as that. Now we get the main event. Jey Uso versus Gunther. This was a very solid match. The last match of the King and the Ring tournament for the Raw side, the quarterfinals. It starts off with Gunther getting the early advantage. They end up playing an injury angle. Gunther ends up throwing Jey Uso's arm into the ring post and injuring Jey Uso's arm, and then cuts to commercial break. So they end up playing an injury angle for the rest of the match. Then constantly Gunther is working the arm. Then he goes to the top rope for to do a dive, but Jey Uso ends up climbing to the top, ends up doing a Samoan drop off the top rope. Then both wrestlers are on the ground. Both wrestlers slowly get up. Then they start having a back and forth between. They end up doing. Gunther starts doing a lot of chops. Jey Uso doing punches. He's doing his kicks. Gunther constantly chopping. Then I think Gunther starts running towards the ropes. Yeah, Gunther tries to run to the ropes, run back at Jey Uso. Jey Uso ends up super kicking him. They both fall to the ground. Then Gunther ends up getting the upper hand again. He ends up making his comeback. Gunther ends up doing a drop kick into a powerbomb into an armbar. Then Jey Uso ends up reversing it, but Gunther ends up getting the upper hand again, and then he starts chopping him like crazy. Gunther was doing some nasty chops to Jey Uso in this match. Very loud chops in this match. It looks like Gunther got the upper hand here. Gunther has the upper hand, but then he ends up getting distracted by the referee. Talking to the ref, gets distracted. Jey Uso, out of nowhere, spears Gunther. Then goes to the top rope, goes for the Uso splash, hands him, Gunther kicks out. Then Gunther ends up he goes for when he went for the Uso splash, when he went for the spear, he ends up knocking the referee down. So then he went for the Uso splash, tries to go for the pin, but the pin took a little too long, and then as he was pinning him, it took like a whole 2 seconds for the ref to actually start counting because he was still recovering from Jey Uso's spear. But then Jey Uso ends up slightly getting up. He's trying to recover, but Gunther ends up recovering first. They was both on the ground still, and then Gunther ends up putting him in a sleeper hold. He ends up holding the injured arm while he's putting him in a sleeper. Jey Uso can't escape and ends up passing out, and that's the end of your Raw. It literally, the Raw ended up ending immediately after Gunther won because they was running on time. This was a great match. This was a really good match. I liked it. I said Gunther was going to go all the way to the finals. I was right about that. I was wrong about Larry Valkyria. I was wrong about Io Sky making it, but I'm happy that she won. This was a really good Raw. Really good Raw. I love what they did here. Very excited what they're going to do. Curious who Gunther's opponent's going to be because it's really between Tom Tonga and Randy Orton. Now, I ain't gonna lie, that's a hard match because if Randy Orton advances, which he's most likely will, I don't know if Gunther's winning that match because Randy Orton is so well protected. Because Randy Orton don't lose. He's he's very similar to Bianca Belair, where he don't lose unless you get a bunch of people to cheat, which Gunther doesn't do. So I don't know if they're not gonna have Randy lose clean. If he does win, they're gonna have Gunther cheat in some way with Ludwig. So this was a great episode of Raw. You guys let me know what you guys thoughts and opinions. Make sure you comment down below. I love what they did with this Monday Night Raw. This was a great episode. But yeah, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. But yeah, that's it.